What up, everybody, and welcome to Baz on Blades. My name is Baz, and I talk about blades, and today I am very excited, super duper excited, to be bringing you the Civivi Cogent. Look at this knife. What a wonderful design. Baz on Blades, pretty doggone positive about this one. It's not absolutely perfect, but what is done exactly the way you would want it to be done. The Civivi Cogent, a very hot new model from Civivi, and much anticipated since its pre-release months ago, 2021. They just came in the very last of 2021. Here we are, the first week of 2022. Baz on Blades has got to get some decent content up here for all of his viewers, subs, and followers. You guys deserve it for supporting Baz on Blades. It's all for you. So, Civivi Cogent. Let's take a look at this sticker very quickly. I picked this up at White Mountain Knives. I do most of my shopping at White Mountain Knives anymore. Justin over there, fantastic guy, easy to work with, great prices, and he gives us a 10% discount. There's all kinds of different discount codes for different knife channels out there. You can use any one of them. Get 10% off any item there. So for this G10 14C28 version of the Civivi Cogent, we're looking at $69.50 with the 10% discount. That is out the door for $62.55. I think very acceptable price point for the Civivi Cogent. Let's pull the packaging out here. Classic white with black print Civivi packaging. Here is the much detailed sticker that they do. We're looking at the purple G10 handle, black stone-washed 14C28 in blade button lock. There you go. There's the information on that. Inside the box, you will find your typical Civivi accoutrement. You're going to get your Civivi branded nylon zipper pouch. Very nice to get one of those. Inside, you've got a couple of Civivi stickers here, aluminum sticker and round Civivi sticker. Some Civivi branding information here, probably including your warranty information and whatnot, and a Civivi branded microfiber cleaning cloth. I am always appreciative that Civivi is coming with these pouches. It makes for a much more premium feeling product. Believe it or not, that packaging and the included stuff is all part of the knife buying, owning experience. It does add to it. So what we've got here basically is a medium large EDC type of knife featuring a button lock. It is a true plunge lock. We will get into that later in the review. Let's go ahead and get our numbers out of the way. Our blade length, slightly less than 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters. Blade stock thickness, I pulled 119 thousandths of an inch or 3 millimeters. Blade width at the widest, about 1 inch or 27 millimeters. Your handle length is 4 3/8 of an inch or 11 centimeters. Handle thickness, right on the average, 513 thousandths of an inch or 13 millimeters. Widest handle width here at the pivot end, 1.21 inches or 31 millimeters. Your closed width at the widest point here is 1.3 inches or 33.5 millimeters. Pretty doggone compact, open or closed. Overall length, 7 7/8 of an inch, or 20 centimeters. Stop pin diameter, 102 thousandths of an inch or 2.6 millimeters. Behind the edge thickness, I hit it in 3 spots along the secondary grind. I got an average of 12 thousandths of an inch or 0.31 millimeters. Civivi grinding it thin like Civivi does. An outstanding feature of this knife is a fan fantastic handle to blade ratio of 80%. And I'm going to tell you, anything above 70% is pretty doggone good. This is really good to get this much blade length in this size of a package. Your weight, 3.7 ounces or 107 grams. As I say, it's sort of a medium large but kind of compact type of knife. Let's pull in something to compare it to, and we're going to pull in the standard, and I even pulled it out in purple so we could do a comparison there. What we've got is the Spyderco Paramilitary 2, and we're going to line them up at the front of the handle scale. You'll see your blade length is pretty much the same. I'm going to say that the Civivi wins out on sharpened edge by about 1/16 of an inch. Handle length, of course, is longer in the Paramilitary 2. It is well known to be handle heavy, but that gives you an idea. Now, what I really want you to pay attention to here is the bulkiness of the design. You are getting the same blade length, maybe slightly more cutting edge in the Cogent, but overall this package is much narrower than the Paramilitary 2 is. It's a much wider profile, and it carries that way. Losing that little bit in the handle length also makes the Cogent feel pretty doggone compact for what it is. I would think it's in that sort of Glock 19 Goldilocks area of being compact as it can be, but not too compact to be too small for bad fitment or to take away the feeling of a usable tool. Very good job as far as the specs on this Cogent goes. Now, it gives me sort of a tactical type of vibe in that in the profile of the clip point blade and in the profile of this handle. And it reminds me of another knife. We will get that out of the way. And that is the Cold Steel Recon 1, which you can see absolutely dwarfs this knife, but take a look at the profile. Of course, the Recon 1 has a much more detailed profile on the handle, but I think you can see there is sort of a similar design language ideal there in these designs. They're not the same, but they sort of have the same ideal. They make me think, the Cogent makes me think of the Recon 1 when I have it in hand. Even though it's got a sort of a different, the more compactness and the more modern type of vibe with the button lock. And then, of course, the coloring in this is not, tactical coloring with the purple G10. Now, let's go into materials on this. For your blade steel, we are in Sandvik's 14C28N. That is a stainless steel that was developed, I believe, around 2011. It was designed exclusively for cutlery. Coming into the design of this alloy with cutlery in mind, I think is one of the reasons it has been so successful. It's not super expensive. Sandvik has a great reputation as a producer supplier of blade steels. The performance of this steel, people are pleased with the performance of it in its price range. It is in that sort of 154 cm, VG10, VG1 sort of performance range. And it's still, they've got that price point down low enough that you can get it in a $60 knife or a $50 knife a lot of the times. You get good edge retention with 14C28N, good impact resistance, and good corrosion resistance. Now, it's a pretty simple steel, but I want to talk about one of its alloying agents, and that is nitrogen. Nitrogen is added as an alloying agent. A lot of times it has a tendency to refine grain structure that is very usable in a non-CPM ingot style steel. It keeps that grain structure nice and small and tight and refined as long as the heat treat is done well. It also helps to bump up the overall hardenable level. If I'm phrasing that correctly, please forgive me if I'm not. It allows you to harden this steel beyond what you might think with the carbon content. And in 14C28N, the carbon content is about 62%. That's lower down in the high carbon range for modern steels. But that nitrogen helps you out there. Sandvik states that the workable range for 14C28N is 55 to 62 on the Rockwell C scale. Users in the production knife world, we're going to see this probably generally in the 58 to 60 Rockwell range. I think in that range, it reminds me of 154 CM and VG10, VG1. It is a pretty doggone good steel, and that is the reason that people give it so much respect, even though it is considered a fairly budget stainless steel. Now, in your handle, you've got flat G10 scales. They are over stainless liners, dual liners, and I don't know if you can see if I've got enough light down in there. These liners are pretty doggone skeletonized. Some of the best work I've seen out of Civivi as far as weight relief goes. It allows you to get this knife with an overall length of almost 8 inches down in the 3.7 ounce, 107 gram range. Very nice job there. This G10 it looks really, really nice. Medium, sort of Spyderco-ish type of texture to it. You do have some nice ball-in milling here to add some detail to it. Through holes, they are actually through holes. I don't know if you can see that or not. And I don't have a flashlight out here, guys. I apologize for that. And I apologize for that noise in the background. That is Jax the Destroyer. He's playing with something and probably breaking it or some part of the house. Material-wise, going to go the G10 stainless liners. We are in stainless standoffs. We do have a bent stainless deep carry pocket clip, black finished stainless small parts with your Civivi branded pivot. It also does have Civivi's single row ceramic bearings on the pivot, and there is no detent ball. The detent actually is from the button lock plunger itself. Now, fit and finish wise, I can't find anything at all. No, not even some small, niggly little anything that I can ding on the fit and finish. It's not the highest end, most refined finish, i.e. we're not in some super bright sort of satin or high-end stonewash sort of bright, blingy finish. We just got G10 here, but everything that's done on this knife is done as well as you can expect. We'll take a look at the blade here. The grinds are super flat, this high flat grind. It is super flat. It looks really good. Look at the way the light plays across it, and even though it has a coating and it's sort of a dull finish, you can still see it is a very flat grind. We've got a good plunge here. The secondary grind, the edge grind, is out beyond the plunge, but not by a lot. I think that if you are not very careful on your resharpening, especially of those guys that use like the KME like me, these clamp systems where we're going to be at an angle sweeping across the blade, it would be very easy to get up into this plunge here and maybe smiley face it. Just be careful there, guys. Just be careful there, or you'll just have to accept a little bit of a smiley face there. I wish I would have brought that choil out another millimeter and a half up that edge grind. But the secondary grind, super even. Again, you know, what were we, 119,000 stock thickness, very high flat grind, very thin behind the edge. It's very slicey. Everything as far as this blade goes was done well. Look at the total lack of any markings at all. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful modern clip point profile. We've also got some jimping on the back, and I'm going to tell you right now, very well done. I'm typically a little let down because Civivi has a tendency to smooth their jimping too much for my personal taste. It's not good or bad. It's just a little too smooth for my personal taste. This is very grippy. It instantly bites. There's enough space in between the individual jimps, the trough in the jimping, to get flesh down in, and then the top is still sharp enough to get grip with. You can see here on my thumb, that is your jimping pattern. We do have some jimping here going into the handle. It is on the liners only, not on the scales. The fit and finish between the liners and scales, you can see here, it's as good as you're going to get. Everything's flat. There's no gaps or anything. Everything's smooth. Again, the finishing as far as applied finishes, the black on the hardware, the liners, it's all good. It's all even. It all matches. It's a very homogeneous sort of packaging for this knife. Now, again, I can't find anything fit or finish that is not good. Even the milling pattern, like it or don't like it. I know some people don't like it. Some people do. I like it okay. That's all very clean. Everything is very clean. Now, let's go to the action. And again, it is on the Civivi's single row ceramic bearings on the pivot, but through some side effects, some characteristics of the plunge lock, you don't have the absolute free fall sort of blade shutting. Even with it pressed in, there's still some, I mean, you can see that it wants to do everything on its own that it can, and there you go. And I've got it adjusted. Yeah, it's pretty, it's coming around. It's coming around. I think it needed to wear past some of this coating a little bit when I first got it. It's coming around to me really well. I've got the pivot set up with absolutely no play in the pivot. There is absolutely no play in the lock of any play at all. Any play, there is no play at all in the pivot or lock of this knife. And I have to tell you right now, that was not the case with the first example of the Cogent that I received. The first example that I received straight out of the box had enough lock play, radial lock play, that you could see it and you could hear it. And I sent Justin an email. He replied nearly instantly, sent me a shipping label, got it back to him. Unfortunately, it was sold out by the time it got back to him, so he refunded the money. He got another shipment in about a week later, and I reordered it. He got it right out to me. Second example, perfect. As I say, the action is coming back around to me as I think it wears past that coating a little bit. The centering is perfect, guys. Now, as far as the action opening, this is a very sort of small, let's say, small flipper tab, and then the orientation is set up with a specific type of action, and that is light switching. It is not set up for push button. What happens when you try to push button, the way this is raked so far forward, when you try to push button, you're pushing pressure straight into the pivot. You're not going to be able to break off of what works as the detent in this knife doing that. It does require a light switch, and it is very crisp. The way the detent is set up on this knife, if you look at a cross section of this knife and you see the button here, okay? Now, okay, this is very hard to explain without taking it apart. This button it's a solid button down. It's got a conical area where it contacts the blade tang. There is a milled recess on the blade tang, a round circular recess with a conical side to it. And what happens is, as this blade, and we're going to see if we can see this, as this blade comes around, you're going to see the button change heights. Okay, the button just popped back up. What it did is it popped that conical section into the recess of the blade. All right, and that is what locks a plunge lock, a button lock that is a true plunge lock. That area that is recessed into the blade right now, locking it together, on the other end of the swing is what is recessed much more shallowly. Okay, and that is what works as your detent. There's no detent ball in there. It is the actual spring pressure on the plunger of the button lock that holds that knife closed, and it allows you to store kinetic energy to make that flipper work. It's plenty stout enough to store plenty of energy to pop that blade out. It rockets out. I suppose you could feel it. I've never really even tried. Let's see. I'm just going to gradually... Okay, I can feel it if I try to feel it. But even under lazy flipping pressure, yeah, I'm not going to be able to feel it even lazily. I've got to purposefully feel it. And any purposeful flipping action, it comes out like a rocket. So the detent feel is not the same as a traditional detent ball like on a liner lock flipper or frame lock flipper, but it's plenty enough detent to give it lively action. And then again, depending on your example, you know, whether it's going to be drop shut smooth so you can play with it, you can see it. Mine drops enough now to where I'm getting a lot of bounce, where the blade is bouncing off of the stop pin and it'll close down. It bounces off that stop pin and comes back open. That is, you know, you've got to work on that in the timing, and it's just hard for me doing it under a camera without hitting anything. But the action is very, very good. So we've talked about the materials. We've talked about all the dimensions on this knife. We've talked about the fit and finish, the action. We've got ergos and utility coming up, and then I'm going to give you my closing thoughts on the Civivi Cogent. Clip point blade, nice amount of flat working edge here, nice belly, nice sharp tip that catches instantly with little to no pressure for piercing. You do have a substantial swedge on the back of this clip, making it very thin for any piercing moves. It is a fairly thin blade as it grinds out towards the tip. You do not want to be doing any prying or screwdrivering with this knife at all. Not only will the edge not take it, being so thin at about 12 thousandths, but the tip won't take it either. It's just, I wouldn't rate it as a heavy-duty sort of build. I would rate it as a strong EDC sort of build. But as far as utility use of the blade, I believe I don't need to explain what this blade can do. It's super thin and slicey. The profile is fantastic, giving you nice distinct cutting zones for different types of cuts, a nice piercy tip. Just a fantastic profile and grind overall for that knife blade. The handle, again, makes me think of the Recon one so much, although slightly less detailed around the perimeter with less shaping. It's a little more of an open design. You've got plenty of open space here for your hand, a decent finger choil here. It gives you a secure grip. You've got a nice thumb ramp here for your thumb with that jimping in. Then you've got a forward section of jimping that's good up on the blade. In my medium-large hands, being the hand volume large with medium length fingers, this is how it fits in my hand. It is a compact feeling fit. It's not small. You can see I've got plenty of knife to hold on to there. It is not small. It's compact feeling, and what makes it feel that way to me is where my thumb is placed. Naturally, if I grip this, my thumb falls right there. I have to compress my thumb back onto that ramp, and that's what gives it a compact feeling to me. But the designers took that into account. This is sort of on that, that sort of line between full size and more compact. So they've given you this section of jimping up front where I can really open up my grip. And under using it, that will allow me, it'll give me a little bit more refined control of the tip, a little bit more available power into my cut. It is very good jimping. The lock feels strong, so it's confidence inspiring as far as having your thumb up beyond the pivot and putting pressure against the back of the blade. You do not want your lock to fail. But good thing is about a lot of flippers, the flipper tab itself, let's press the button here. If that lock was to fail, this is all it's going to do. That's all it's going to do. It's not going to close down. And one of the reasons it's not is this flipper tab has such good jimping on it. Holy smokes at the jimping that is on this flipper tab. Let's take a close look at this. It is jimped all the way around, and as this profile comes across the sharper part of the front edge of it, that real sharp sort of radius, the few jimps, the few edges there, they really catch. I mean, they really catch. Excellent job on that section of jimping and this section of jimping right here. Excellent job by Civivi on that. I'm very happy with that. The grip, yeah, man, it feels really good to me. It's flat, it's comfortable. The edges are radiused. It very much feels like, a Spyderco Paramilitary 2, the way the edges are treated, although it's a little bit softer edged on the Cogent. It may be a little closer to how the edges are radiused on the Recon 1, although not quite that soft. But for its size, for its thickness to width ratio, the radiusing on the edge, it does give you the level of comfort you need in those flat scales. The pocket clip, although we still do have this very high tip to this pocket clip design from Civivi, I like this pocket clip, but I think it does need to be refined. It needs to have a lower tip with a flat on it. And taking that into consideration on this knife, that pocket clip falls right in between knuckles on my hand as I grip it. So there's no real discomfort. I can feel the pocket clip, but there's no real discomfort. And this is not a big, heavy, long, hard use knife. I wouldn't be using it for the type of work that would cause any hot spotting or fatiguing because of that pocket clip, or maybe the jimping on the forward edge of this flipper tab here. You may find that your grip, if you'd like a nice forward sort of grip, that jimping might dig in right here. It might a little bit, but that's the trade-off. You either get good jimping or you don't get good jimping. Good jimping is made to be abrasive to a certain degree. Overall, I think that Civivi has done an absolutely fantastic job on this knife. I will forewarn you, button locks are extremely finicky to manufacture. They are one of the most finicky locks to manufacture. This is a sub $100 production knife. Keep in mind, just like my first example had lock play in it, you may get an example with lock play. There's going to be a little higher percentage of that because these types of locks are so hard to do consistently perfect in a production knife. But I expect if anybody is going to do a good job on it, it's going to be Civivi. They overall do such a fantastic job on their knives, and I'm going to very positively and enthusiastically recommend this knife if it is something you are interested in. Do not buy it thinking it's going to be some super heavy-duty use knife. Button locks are not that typically, but I think we've got a good level of material and performance for the price we paid. So there you go. The Civivi Cogent, Bazon Blades, giving it a recommendation. Check out White Mountain Knives. Use a discount code. Get it for even less. So, as always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch one of my videos. God bless all of you, and we will talk to you again.